Okay, team, welcome back to the Anchor of the Week, where we have hard conversations, hear people's stories, and challenge perspectives. My name is Zach.
And I'm Courtney.
And we are the Anchor of the Week with another episode. We have a special guest today, and we're super excited to have you on, Nomi. We obviously are starting a new series on worldviews, and we talked about that last week. We had a bunch of intros, discussed our own perspectives, but the big thing of what we want to do going forward is hearing people's stories and seeing other worldviews that are out there. So, Nomi, if you don't mind just introducing yourself for us.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah.
And well, I'm Nomi Ahmed, and I'm from Pakistan. And it's very hard to define yourself. And but still, if I need to introduce myself in one sentence, so I'll be in this world where you can be anything, just try to be kind. So that's who I am.
Brilliant. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Love it. I met Nomi.
Yes.
We have a yellow tent that we set up twice a week, actually.
3 times.
3 times a week. There we go. Yeah.
Fact checking.
Fact checking there, yeah. But yeah, where we just give out hot drinks and hot food and just basically just want to have a conversation with people. But I know you met one of our friends there, and then she connected us. And we had such good conversation. I remember on the day I was like, this is great. Like, he has such good thoughts. So yeah, really just sat in line with kind of what we want to do.
Yeah. And this is I think a super practical output of what we talked about last week. If you guys have not listened to last week's episode, please do that, because basically Zach and I go through the 7 questions about, what forms your worldview, and the 7 questions that everyone's worldview has to answer. So we answered those. So if you guys haven't listened to that, listen to it so you can understand where we come from and then come back to this. But we are essentially doing the practical output of that. Okay, so how do you have a conversation with someone that maybe has a different worldview than you do? Because we find when we don't realize that someone else has a different worldview, it becomes an argument, and you're like, why don't they see it from my perspective? But that's because we're looking at the world completely different. So hopefully that's what today's conversation is.
Yes.
And again, super chill, super fun. But also just tackling those hard questions. And how do you disagree with someone, or maybe agree with someone, and be okay with it?
And we actually don't know Nomi's answers.
Yeah.
So we're very much, obviously, we sent him the questions of kind of what we want to dive into, and obviously he saw kind of a little bit like what we do here. But aside from that, we don't know the answers. So I feel like it's a good kind of this is the way it is. We don't know anything.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk
So we're
about
super excited.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way you said, the yellow tent and all that. So I just gotta say this one thing. Okay, so I mean, this is another thing. When you guys talk about the worldview and all that. But at personal level, you know what happened? When somebody from the Eastern world comes to the Western world, and there's a huge difference. I mean, at the end of the day, the basics of life work same everywhere. Everywhere, we all need to have food in our system to keep working, right?
Yeah.
To keep going, to keep functioning, as well as we all die. I mean, there are these are the basic truths of life, which are same in the Western world, Eastern world, and all that. But having said this all, what I have seen so far, I mean, the struggle is in West, it's very hard to socialize,
right.
to interact with people, and I mean, the same way, we are very warm, welcoming people in the eastern side of the world, and in West, unless you connect to somebody, I mean, you cannot really interact with the strangers, because people are afraid from each other. And I understand London is an international city. There are so many things happening, and it's hard for people to trust, and they have their own reasons. But at the same time, I mean, it was very cold. The weather is cold, so I was so excited. Finally, I started. When I met you guys, so I was like, wow, man! These guys are at least doing something beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't about the ideological question for me, a religious question, is it good, or is it right or wrong? No, it was more like what you guys are doing. It was so beautiful, and the warm and welcoming heart. So that was so heart touching for me.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Glad to know.
It's nice to hear a little testimony.
But I love how even before we even dive into any of the questions, you mentioned something so important, just the Eastern versus the Western world, and how even just in that, how you grow up, how that has completely formed a worldview. Because one puts the value on the task, which is the Western world, right? Everyone's kind of in their own thing. I'm just focused on living my best life kind of a thing. But you just said there, the Eastern world, where it's more community focused, right? And you're looking out for one another more, as what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Even that completely shapes your worldview. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, I mean, in the Eastern world, we still have more the strong family fabric. The social fabric is still very firm, very solid. You can rely on. And in the Western world, I mean, it's great to have this kind of freedom. I mean, of course, like there is no question. Like when you have freedom, like you shine like a star. Any individual can groom, can shine, and can
Right.
achieve whatever they want.
Sure.
But at the same time, they may tend to feel extremely lonely, extremely depressed. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's strange for me and sad to see, but. And I could be very wrong because these are my observations and not that mature because it's I mean like again I'm very new to this, so my observation could be very mature, but what I've seen so far, it's very easy for people to fall in this trap of loneliness and depression in the Western society than the Eastern society, because like you guys have professional institutes and services to our those organizations to help people to not be depressed and all that, but one good hug, I mean, from a friend, from a family member, can be like much more than any professional organization.
Sure, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
But-
that's-
no, it's brilliant. Great start. Yeah. I feel like maybe that kind of ties in well within it, because as in like what is it? Wait, double check on the first question. What,
Here you go.
yeah, double check on it before I start rambling on here. Yeah.
Okay, so the first question that like answers, we must answer, right, in order to form our worldview,
Right.
is what is the nature of ultimate reality?
Cool.
Right?
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, reality. I mean, let's just like look into the reality. What is the reality? So, to me, reality is, I mean, very subjective thing. I mean, there is no ultimate reality. That's how I feel. I mean, like, let me give you an example, so you might be able to. I mean, get my point of view much better. To me, like, let's say, like, this is the water, right? And we all agree, like, okay, this is the glass of water, correct?
Yeah.
This is the reality, right? Now, like, let's have somebody like who is a student of science, like who understands this chemical science or chemistry, and if he or she goes like, oh, you know what, like this is the H2O, and like he or she is on the next like higher level of the reality. Now there is another person who dives in, and he or she be like, you know what, it's like 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 oxygen. You know, again, like she and he's right, and the reality is like with the increasing knowledge, he or she is getting on the higher level of reality. And like next person could be like, oh, you know what, like these are the atoms. And the next person could be like who can have like who can look into the atoms with the microscopy techniques and all that. And he or she be like, you know what, these are like not even the atom, these are the subatomic particles. So reality is a very relative thing. I mean, it's a very subjective thing. So it really depends on which level of which level of information and knowledge you are at. So I mean, you'll be like able to look in more deep. But again, like the ultimate reality, I mean, there are like some, I would say like some confirmed realities. I mean, we can't deny. Let's say like water is cold, fire is supposed to burn you. I mean, those are the well-established realities. I mean, anybody can challenge and like can verify and re-verify and testify. But yeah, I mean, those are the again like confirmed realities. But ultimate reality, I mean, we all are trying to find like 7 billion people on this planet Earth. Everybody has some kind of idea about all that. But yeah, I mean,
7 billion different ideas. Yeah. But I think the water analogy is interesting to me because I would say personally that it's all the same. It's the same reality. We just have a different revelation of what that reality is. But if I look at that and say that's water, and someone, you know, a few steps ahead says, no, it's these atoms and these atoms, are we not still looking at the same thing? We just have a different understanding of the same thing.
So reality hasn't changed. It's just
Our perception.
Yeah.
Of reality.
Well, actually, like they were like I was trying to tell you, like these are like I mean, let's say the water, like I mean, the analogy I was trying to put here. Yes, reality is not changing, but relatively, I mean, like it's giving you a different perspective on each and every level, right? Like, so if somebody is talking about water, like some water, like when you go into the chemical science into like atoms, and now like electron, proton, neutron, like there could be like whole different kind of discussion, like what is the nature of electron, proton, and neutron into this substance, like which is a liquid, which is like water now. So again, like ultimate reality, I mean, I would like to hear you guys, like if you got like I mean, like some people would say like the God is the ultimate reality of this universe. I mean, that's the one philosophical explanation people try to put on, and I do understand why, because we as a human being need to have some kind of like authority, some kind of moral support, emotional support, and with the idea of God, like that's what we get. I mean, like we sometimes get confused. I mean, like sometimes, like people say, "Oh, I'm Muslim, I'm Christian, I'm this and that," or I'm believe in science and I don't believe in nothing. And if somebody like asks me, like, "Who are you?" and my simple answer would be like, "I'm confused," and that's the that's my reality.
That's your reality.
Yeah, I mean, honestly.
do you believe in the supernatural then? Is that like in the sense of like a god or something
Like a spiritual realm in that
Yeah.
sense.
So yeah, well, that's a very, very interesting question. So, supernatural, I do believe in certain way. Like to me, like gravity is supernatural for me. I mean, if you understand me, like, I mean, I know like it's working, right? I mean, every single day. But again, like it's supernatural. Magnetic forces are supernatural for me. And now, like when people like talk about the spirituality, they mean more like the, entities which are like, which could be like from the evil or which could be from the God. I mean, like that's what people refer to. So like if gravity can exist, so I mean, I don't know, maybe like there are some kind of, but again, like I'm very confused on that too. Like I'm not very like hardcore in any kind of on anything actually. Like, oh yeah, this is like the only way. No, I mean there could be so many. Yeah.
So you mentioned like before about a god, and obviously it to you. I think if I understood you right, it makes sense that there's a god, right? Or it makes sense that there's an authoritative figure because we're people who are so confused. Is that what you're leading to, or is it more kind of like? Does that mean is that what you believe, or it's just like in your mind that would make sense?
No, I mean when it comes to believe, I'm confused.
Okay.
I mean, like again, like I gotta repeat myself.
Right,
Yeah, like and I mean, so many people are hesitant to like accept or admit, like even to their own self, like I'm confused, like because like nobody wants to be in that kind of
Place,
position or situation. So I mean, like if you think about the idea of the God. The way like what happened to me like when I was like I still remember like when I was 4 or 5 years old as a kid, or maybe like a little younger than that. So yeah, I mean my parents and everybody like the society I was growing up, they introduced the idea of Allah, God, Creator, and be a good Muslim and all that. So I mean, like as any kid, like I wanted to believe what they said, and I really believed and had faith and all that, right? And like to me, like God was up there somewhere, like in the heavens, right? So like I was living in Kashmir, that was more like an hilly area, right? So I mean, like as a kid, I used to have like this kind of perception, as it was in hilly area, so I would like see like mountain next to my house, and I was like, if I go to that mountain, on the top of that mountain, if I like raise my hand up, so I'll touch the sky, which means like that was God to me. I mean, I reach Allah, I reach to Allah. I mean, heaven or sky was the idea of the God. So that was my very first idea of God as a baby. But again, like you start questioning so many things, and I guess like that what has happened to the humanity too. I mean, just imagine of the very first human being on this planet Earth, like fully developed mind, brain, right? And he or she must have started thinking and all that. And like again, like for the moral support, emotional support, we needed to come up an idea. So that could be a man-made idea, or again, like, and who knows, like, I mean, like again, like the biggest question is like, where do these ideas come from?
Yeah.
I mean, that's another question.
That's one of the other questions, right? Yeah.
So I mean, if like there is a divine force, so I mean, he like that force might have put that idea into the very first human brain. The other possibility is like it was a man-made idea. Yeah.
Because I think also like we were talking about the Western and that, like the different cultures and stuff, and I feel like the idea of a god for your world, let's say when you were growing up, was very normal, right? Because that's something that was introduced at a very young age. So for since you were a little kid, like you were just describing, you already have this like God is something, even though you don't exactly know what it is. You're forming your own idea of it, but the idea of a God is very.
For me, God wasn't like something. God was everything to me.
Right. So, but like something like that here is so unheard of, almost. Or like I can't imagine a little kid trying to figure out their idea of a God, because that's so not like a normal thing here. I feel like, or at least like in the Western cultures and stuff like that. So it's just so interesting how already like your environment and things like that are already shaping those ideas from such a young age. Like that's something that we were just discussing at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting how worldview changes, though, right? Because now your worldview is completely different than when
Right.
you were a kid,
Mm,
right? You're no longer
of
trying to
course,
touch the sky,
yeah,
trying to
for
find.
sure. Like it has
Yeah.
definitely evolved. And the way Zach said, I mean, like as a young kid, I guess like every single young kid, like if you can remember our those days, like when we were 4, 5, 6 years old, we still have like this very basic question, like who are we, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like every single human kid. I mean, like that's
Yeah.
what I believe. I could be very wrong. I mean, this is what I believe now, right?
Yeah.
So. But again, you know what happened, like when we started growing up, like we have like so many different type of distraction. We have to survive and we have to make money. We have to do so many things. So we tend to forget that basic idea, the very basic question, who are we? What are we doing on this planet Earth?
Exactly.
So that's what happens to the people. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that thing might have happened to me with more intensity than the normal kids. But yeah, I mean, again, like I believe like everybody has like this kind of question in back of mind, like
Exactly.
burning. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's true that we cover up a lot of it because it gets pushed to the back, right? But then all of a sudden we have a worldview that we're unaware of. And that's where I think it gets dangerous as well. So, one, happy we're having this conversation. But let's move on to the next question. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. So, number 2, we have what is the nature of material reality? So, that is the physical.
Yeah.
Here we are.
So
What are your thoughts?
again, like I mean, it's the way I said, like reality could be very subjective thing, and now like when you're talking about like the material world, like the physical world, the world we can see. So again, like if you look into this world, like this world is also made up of the atoms, right? Or the like, what is the basic particle of the matter? Atom, and atom is composed of what, electron, proton, neutrons, and like subatomic particles and particles. I'm sorry. So so now, like when we dive a bit more into the subatomic world, I mean electron, protein, neutrino, and all that. So then we get into this. I mean, have you guys heard of the boson particle, the goddamn particle, the discovery? I mean, it made like headlines worldwide like a couple of years ago. So
Give us a refresher.
Yeah.
so I have to like a little bit brief you or tell you about it.
Yes.
I mean, what is the right word? Oh yeah, again, like,
Educate, I
Yeah.
think is the right word.
yeah. Because again, like this is like a little bit of a struggle for me as a language, you know. So I just anyhow. So the discovery of that goddamn or boson particle was very interesting for me, and like scientists made like a claim like, oh, you know what, we have discovered God, or like how God operates, we know now. It was like more like a publicity stunt or like media hype, but the guy like who discovered this subatomic or like actually not even, that wasn't even the subatomic particle, but like that was more like a transitional state between the energy to the matter. So I mean, that guy's name was the Higgs boson, so that's why like this particle or this discovery of this thingy was, or entity was called as Higgs boson particle. So in like why it was like so important in the discovery or in this in the science, that this was the very first time when scientists observed like how matter is being formed from the energy, right? I mean, in the nick of the second, it was like matter, and the like in the blink of an eye, like actually in the blink of an eye is way too long time in that subatomic level.
Wow.
It was like matter energy. So I mean, it was like also changing its reality, its nature constantly. So if our world, the physical world, is being formed by those kind of little tiny, very, very, very small particles, which are energy, which are matter. So again, like it's hard to determine the physical reality. Yeah. I mean, like, again, like if that is the building block of this whole big universe, right?
Yeah.
So like if it's changing, like it's dancing. So so that's the physical reality would also change.
So just because of that, because you think it's kind of a bit more unstable, would you say that you believe that, you know, the nature of material reality then is more chaotic than orderly?
Oh, that's a very good one. Yeah, let me take a deep breath in.
Sorry, yeah.
So
if you don't have a full answer, that's also totally fine.
No. I actually like want to respond to this one. So to me, I mean, like when people say like, and this is where like I have to, this is where like my mind does ponder a lot about the God and all that. Like God has created everything in such a beautiful way, like there's a proper order and symmetry and all that. But to me, like when I look into this universe and the design of life on this planet Earth, I feel more chaos. Yes. I mean, I feel more disorder than the order. I feel more problem than the beauty. I mean, it could be a very sadistic way to look into the world, but
Sure,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's formed by, like, do you think that's the way it is, or do you think that's us in our own doing, though? Because I think my response to something like that would be, well, we are people who are so broken.
We are chaotic people.
Yeah. So we obviously will turn something good into something that's maybe...
I would totally disagree with you on this one too. And my reason to disagree with you, like, it's so easy to like bash your own self. Oh, like we were born sinners, and like, you know, like, because like that's how like the idea of God has to fit into the society. I mean, your prayers are not being answered because of this, you know, because I mean, you need to like constantly ask for forgiving. What kind of forgiving? I mean, like, this is a serious question. The very first time, I mean, like at very first place, I am brought to this world without my consent. Okay, I mean, I don't like sign any kind of agreement. Yeah, please send me to that earth, and I'm gonna be that dude, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is like, I mean, like if you talk about the freedom of whatever kind of freedom, so like it's such a big violation from who, you know? I mean, there is somebody like there is some entity, so. Then now on the top of that, like if you ask me, like if you're telling me, like, you know what, because we are not good enough, and that's why like we are not like being responsible or whatever, and that's why there's whole chaos. Yes, okay, like even if that is the case, who created us? He was good enough. He should have created us in a much better way. I mean, like, yeah. I mean that is the one thing, like he should have created like more better a design of life. I mean, I don't get this whole idea like if there is God, like why people are dying in the Africa. Yes, we might have so many problems. Yes, we admit, but we are not the creator of our own selves. Or this whole design, this whole design of life. Who created that? He should have done more better job on that one. That's what my
understand.
Yeah. And then like I would come from my perspective and be like, well, like that was not like the intent, you know? I was actually just listening to a podcast about this, basically explaining like the first couple books of the Bible, right? Which obviously, you know, I believe. And the fact that like this was never like the original plan, like of that.
The creation wasn't the original plan.
Well, it was Eden, you know. It was like living in that paradise, you know. And then because of human decision, that we kind of threw caution to the wind. And
I mean, it's so beautiful, like the way it sounds, like heaven and all that, like living in the heaven and all that. But again, the very first thing, like. We don't know like we are going to be existed, like we are going to be existing, like we don't know nothing, like we are going to be on this planet Earth, right? Yeah. And when we wake up, like someday, like we are like, now like I'm Nomi, like somebody else gives, the irony is somebody else tells who are you, like in the name where like I'm Nomi. That's not my name. That wasn't like what I chose, and Zach and Courtney. So so like you suddenly wake up, like then like there are set of instructions, and it really depends. It's very relative. It really depends like which kind of environment you wake up in. I mean, you were introduced to the Jesus, I was introduced to the Allah, somebody else was introduced to the Ram, and like you know,
it's true.
So I mean, that is the like very first struggle. Who are we? I mean, like why is there so much of the chaos, ideological chaos? They were like, so that's the very one thing. The second thing, like let's say like if there is, God, like, and he was like, he really wanted us to be on the right path and all that. Why my God has to be Allah and your God has to be Jesus? Why like so many different types of information, like I mean,
or interpretation.
Like I was given Quran, which is in Arabic language. That wasn't even my first language. And you guys, I mean, like you guys are lucky in this way. Like you guys have Bible available in English, and this is your first language. And why like somebody like in Africa who doesn't speak Arabic, English, and anything, and now like he has to, read Bible in English. That's like, I mean, huge struggle. It may like take 15, 20, 30 years to go to that depth. So, I mean, if God could have come up with the universal language, like if he really, really, really wanted us to know like who he or she is, right? Yeah. So, I mean, like even like human brain, like our human mind, have done like this universal language, like computer coding 0101. It's a universal language. You don't need to worry like if you're Japanese, Spanish, French, English, or Arabic. I mean, it's a universal language, like 2 + 2 is equal to is gonna be 4, like 01 is gonna be operating the same way, like if any Urdu speaking is gonna operate it, English speaking, French speaking, all that. So if God really wanted us to like know him in the way like 100% confirmed way and avoid this all chaos and difference of the ideologies and people get emotional on all that, and then they start getting into the fights and then wars and all that. He or she should have given us the very clear set of instructions in a language which is a universal language anybody and everybody should be able to understand right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a rebuttal to that in the Bible, but this is not a Bible study.
Yeah.
Or just how different languages were actually created, which is cool because I think a lot of people don't know that actually is in the Bible as well. But two things: one, I love that you related this back to like computer and like coding, even because that is what you do. Like you work in IT and all of that, and I think that is one really cool that we can like view it through the things that we know and our passions and things like that. And I also love that you like. I think a lot of people don't think about this in general, but even the fact that you were like, how did I even end up on this planet? Like you're taking it from even like such a further step back. So I think a lot of people don't even take the time to say, okay, who am I? But you literally are like even zooming out more than that. Like, who am I? How did I get here? Why am I here? And all these things, which I really appreciate. That makes good conversation.
Yeah.
But
and this is why I knew this would be great.
Zach was like, trust me. Amazing. Should we move on to a new question?
Yes.
I thought like you were going to revert me on that.
No. I was just complimenting you.
Cool.
Well, I think it actually leads into our next question, though. What is a human being? Like, here we are. What is a human?
So, may I like dare to ask you like, what is your perception of being human? Then like I'll try to explain my idea. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah.
I mean, I think, from the get-go, right? Like, if we believe in God, that we believe that we are created by God, and in His image. So in that sense, like, there is the value, there is the purpose, there is like the worth. And I think for me, it's like the intentionality of it. That it wasn't just, oh, poof, I appeared one day. But the fact that, like, oh, I was created. And so your whole thing about, like, how did we even, like, we're here without our consent, you know what I mean? Which I definitely, like, understand. And, we all just wake up one day and we're like, wow, we're on Earth. Which I rarely think about, which I think I want to think about now. But it's the idea of, well, okay, I was placed on this Earth for a purpose. In that sense. And for me, that helps me give value to other people because I realize, hey, we didn't just appear one day. It's not just like you're some whatever, but it's understanding that, like, it helps me give value. And if you go back to the very beginning of the conversation about like be kind or whatever, like, I feel like I wouldn't be kind to you if I didn't think that I had a purpose or if I didn't think that your life mattered. You know what I mean? For me, that helps me.
Yeah. And like in the Bible, it says like He knew us before by name. So the idea of like, just reiterating what Courtney was saying, like He knew us before we even came on here. And so, it does give us purpose. But to be honest, you summed that up really well, Courtney. Cool. So, what do you think?
My response to this all would be, I mean, like the answer is again like huge word, like my answer. No, my response it may be a like better word. So, the very first thing, what is life? What is universe? What is God? What is human? What are we? These are all very tough, technical, philosophical, deep questions, and nobody can answer them 100%. Let's be agreed on this all. Let's agree on this all. Yeah. I mean, like we all have different type of perceptions to this all.
Yeah.
I mean, and there are so many different ways to. I mean, like the water analogy. I mean, there are so many different ways to describe the human being, right? I mean, somebody like maybe more into the subconscious or conscious mind or the spirituality, he or she be describing the human being more like in a spiritual way. If somebody is more into this science, then they be more like into the biological aspect of the humanity, like you are a human being, like this is how human being is. And if somebody is more into I mean, like philosophical way, or poetic way. I mean, like if you ask a poet, like, so what do you think, like what is human being? And he'd be like, human being is a beautiful poetry. That could be a simple response,
Yeah.
It's a difference of perceptions and all that. So, I mean, I'll go with more like a biological way. I mean, we are the bipedal social beings or animals. And now, I hope like you guys like totally I have understood this one statement. I don't need to go into the more depth. So like the natural response should be in your mind, like if we are the biological beings, and then what is this purpose and aim, and that's what I'm trying to figure out too. But again, like the higher purpose could be the dream or the purpose you choose for yourself. Like you have a dream and you make it happen, and that could be the highest purpose. Yeah.
I love that. We got 2 answers in one right there.
Yeah, we did.
Because this is another question, right? What is like
Yeah.
the meaning of history? What is the meaning of life in and of itself?
Yeah.
That's usually the last question. I feel like that people answer, because it's like, okay, you kind of figure out where you are, you kind of figure out where you're at, but then it's the question now, like, what do you do with it? So yeah,
do you form that yourself then in terms of what you do with it? And do you form that off of like what you enjoy in life, what you desire, the things you want to accomplish, even the things you lack in maybe?
So again, like to me, that's a very good question. The problem with this idea, like I like to have this steering wheel of my life. I want to be in this position. Where do I want to drive? Which direction? What do I want to achieve? How I love the process of having a dream, believing in it, then making a plan or creating a plan like step by step, and how I'm going to achieve that. And when I get there, I love it. Like, oh yeah. But the idea with this very own, the problem with my very own idea, what I just presented, the way I see it, because like I'm a very self-critical of my own thoughts and ideas, and I guess like this is a more better way everybody should be. The idea is like, it is like if somebody's smart enough, he or she be able to drive this the life, the way like he or she wants to. But what about like all those people who do not have that much of information? They don't have that much of the energy to come up to have the control of their own life. So this is the problem I see with my very own idea.
Hey, that's good.
So but personally for me it's working in a great way.
Yeah. So if it's working, obviously, I mean, you just questioned your own idea here, but do you think, because we believe like we were made to be with people, so almost like that idea of when you have your own dream and vision, and I'm the one trying, like me getting there is all that really matters. Like I would say for me, like it goes beyond that, and I think when I live in that kind of world, it means that I don't need anyone else, because unless they're going to help me get to where I need to get to. But again, even in
no,
that
I
case,
don't think like I mean the way like you sound like it feels like this idea is very selfish. What if the idea is like, what, like I want to do I want to like end the poverty up in this world.
Right.
I mean, that's not a selfish position. In a very same idea, like, or if I personally believe, like, and this is my faith, or like believe about my idea. Like when I was like 17, 18, I want to create business. I want to give jobs to so many people, because in my world, like where I was coming from, people needed jobs. People were like struggling for like little bit of money to just survive. And like, I had this kind of vision to create a company where like at least like 200 to 300 people are working, and I'm able to provide them the jobs, and 200 to 300. I mean, this is how we're looking at the thing, like 200 to 300 families are being being fed.
Yeah.
So I mean,